Most modernisms, be it vegetarianism, veganism, paleo, all of this, they are based on inclusion or exclusion of certain food groups.
Of course.
So what makes nutrition Vedic?
Vedic is an ancient wisdom that deals with the earth, the preservation of the earth, Mother Nature, and all of the elements that contribute to the world's health, the earth's health, our environment, and everything else. It is ageless and timeless because it doesn't change its concepts or precepts. Environments change, people change, our lifestyle change. But in terms of the nutrition of the earth, what feeds it, what nourishes and nurtures it, that doesn't change. The concepts of food groups has always been interesting. And we find that as soon as we have what is considered an ism, a group, that then it begins to isolate, it begins to separate, it begins to divide. What I think we have to feel through or get past is the concept and the ideas that milk is not human food. I disagree with that completely, as does the Vedas. But the treatment of the animals, the treatment of our milk source, the animal husbandry throughout the world, beginning in the US, then in Europe and elsewhere, is horrendous. I've been writing about this since 1981 in my first book, A Life of Balance. The absolute artillery of drugs and punishment that is put into the cow's feed and the control of the cow, the control of the animal in terms of controlling its milk supply, denying the young, its babies, the milk, constantly keeping it in that reproductive cycle where it keeps churning out more milk. Even the barbarous acts of cutting their tails so that the vendors don't get slapped in the face, I mean, believe that or not, or dehorning them. I mean, the process is barbarous, there's no doubt about it. Veganism has been very helpful in bringing a lot of that information to the fore.
Mm-hmm. So you are saying that just by boycotting cow's milk, we are not actually
solving the problem. We are not actually forming a solution here by boycotting the milk. The cow will give birth. It has its essence, sentiency. Its sentiency is also to nourish the human person. We do believe that the interrelationship among various species is what actually preserve human consciousness and human sentiency. Look, I'll give it 20 years and we still will not have solved this problem even if we boycott every gallon of milk. Because whenever we make food into a movement, what we're doing is we're beginning to widen the separation between consciousness and sentiency. Veganism has other areas that are to be questioned, and the area of the carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. Mind you, we're neglecting milk, and we understand why. Yeah. At the same time, we're taking every possible thing that we can in terms of legumes and nuts, etc., 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 and trying to make milk from other things. We have more than 500 million packages of processed vegan foods in America alone, and I'm sure nobody is looking at the carbon footprint that is coming out there, because commercially it is the same as any other production, any of the major commercial organizations that are producing a huge amount of carbon footprint. Let's look at the further aspect that is not being considered, the economic aspect. Mm-hmm. To shop in a health food store, in the vegan quarters of the health food store, which is now predominantly taking over more than 2/3 of the shelves of health food organizations and retailers. We're looking at something like $20 billion worth of sales a year in North America alone, which is fine, except that it doesn't serve a single poor. It doesn't serve a single moderate income person because it is way too expensive for anyone that is in the middle income and lower income bracket economically to afford it. So who really are we serving with a movement that is becoming more and more elitist, not by intent, but by the progression of food movements. Look, we're not blaming the vegan community for any of these things, and I want that to be extremely clear. There is no fault here. There is no judgment here. There is a simple assessment of our approaches. And we have had so many food movements in the world, none of it has succeeded to accomplish its goals. Because once food becomes a movement, we divide, we subjugate, we isolate, we become what we have started out not wanting to be, and that is elite.
So what's the relationship that as an individual one must develop with food in Vedic nutrition?
In Vedic nutrition,
tenets of Vedic nutrition?
In Vedic nutrition, we live with the seasons, we live with the land, we live with the community. Solution here has always been what it has always been, and that is we must invest our energy in the community building of having smaller communities that work with each other to protect the farmland, to protect the farmer, the local farmer, to protect the local dairy, to protect the local food source, to protect the local environment. That is a mission that will be well accomplished. In a way, when we start a movement with food, we are already signing up for being allergic to life.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we need to reconsider this. Food cannot be a movement. The Green Revolution destroyed so much of Mother Earth, and it still hasn't fed a single poor. It still hasn't fed any of the things. Meaning that if I can have access to good food, healthful food, the man who has no money should also have access to healthy food. At least that is the very least that humanity owes its humanity, and that is food, good food for everybody. Make the broad statement that one person is more conscious than the other. In many cases, the people who are making the choices and the movements that we're talking about are people who have huge egos and stand in their own way because of egotism and because of the internal need to be right about what they believe in.
So the message is Vedic nutrition is not about neglecting cows. It is actually about protecting.